Hello there everybody, and welcome back to what I think will be the second video on my new YouTube channel, and this one is going to be all about code blocks and kind of what you can do with them, because they're kind of pointless by themselves, but I am going to use them to bring up a couple, or several actually, kind of programming tools that are really common, like if statements, for loops, functions, classes, really honestly like the rest of the basic programming tools that we're going to teach on this channel. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so to start things off, you can think of a code block as just a way to group together pieces of your code that kind of just logically belong together in order to manipulate it in other ways later. So for our example here, I think the best way to start it off would be to think of a list of things that you think go together in your life. So I chose kind of my most basic daily routine of shower, eat, and sleep. And then we gotta roll it up to get it ready for the package, and then what better way, I thought, to represent code blocks in this episode than a real box. So then we toss our little routine into our metaphorical code block, and we jump right over to the computer to see how we would do this in C. So it's pretty easy. We just open up some curly brackets and that's pretty much it. And then I guess for this example I'm just gonna print out our little shower, eat, and sleep routine out to the console and then see what happens. And you can see after I compile it here that it prints out shower, eat, and sleep. And that by itself honestly is kind of boring, and that's why I started the video out by saying that code blocks by themselves aren't very useful, but it's the things you can do with code blocks that are useful. So now that we have our little daily routine thing going on, what happens if we want to repeat it 5 times? Do we just sit there and type it out 5 times, or is there a better way? And as it turns out, there's a much better way to repeat the same block of logical code 5 times, and it's called a for loop. Now in order to use one of these for loops in C, we need to set up a little bit of framework. So to start, we need to make space for a counter variable, and then we have to go before our code block and add a little statement that lets C know that we want our counter variable to start at 0, and then we want that counter variable to go while it's less than 5, and that each time it goes through our code block, we want the counter variable to increase by 1. So then when we run it, we see that it prints shower, eat, sleep, and does that 3 more times. So then we get a total of 5 prints. And then also, as with anything else in programming, there's probably more than one way to do what you're doing. And in C, there's a couple popular ways to repeat a code block several times, and the second way I'm going to show you is called a while loop. So it works on the same principles as the for loop, except rather than having that statement before the code block do all the work, or show up doing all the work rather, we write it out explicitly. So we have the same counter variable, we have the same condition to stop repeating our code block, but instead of having the statement before the code block increment the counter variable, we have to do it inside of the loop. And I kind of like while loops because they give me a little bit more control. Or at the very least, I have to think a little bit more about what I'm writing it as I'm writing it. And then as you guys can see, there was another little bug, nothing to be discouraged about, just fix it and then move on. And then you see at the end of the day, it does the same thing that the for loop does, just it's written in a slightly different way. Which at the end of the day, like many of the things, is just going to come down to personal preference to which one you want to use. So now we've tackled repeating our code block a couple times. What happens if we only want our code block to happen if something else happens? Like if it's a good day, we're gonna shower, eat, and sleep. If not, maybe not so much. And as it turns out, C has a way to do that as well, and it's called an if statement. And as it turns out, it's not really that hard. So we kind of start out the same way as we did with a for loop, or just any really loop in general, and we have our code block. And then we add the if keyword before it, and then our condition after it. So in this if statement I have written here, I'm testing if it's a good day, and if it's a good day, then I'm going to run that code block. And then if statements are kind of funny because they can have multiple conditions, I guess. So what you see me doing now is saying, well, if it's not a good day, but my good day rating, I guess, is greater than 1, then I'm going to do this code block that I'm working on now. So I guess when I was making this, I decided that a 1 was probably the best day and maybe like a 5 was the worst day or something like that. And then if neither of those conditions above this were true, then I'm going to execute this last code block that I am writing in right now. And one important note is that the only mandatory part of this that you need for your if statement to work is that first part that I wrote, that first block saying if it's a good day, then do this code block. The rest of it is just add-ons for any particular situation that you might run into where you might want to check multiple things maybe, or have a condition that catches everything, like if my good day rating is 1, then do this, and any other situation, do that last block. So that's why those other 2 parts are helpful there. Alright, so I think that about wraps it up for this video. There's one more main thing that I kind of want to cover that has to do with code blocks, but I think that deserves its own video. And now it's challenge time, and rather than me bumbling on about how to do it verbally, I'm just gonna leave it down below, and then you guys can go check them out and try them for yourselves. I hope you see you next time.